Hey guys, it's Adam here with RC Logger, and once again, welcome back to my workbench. For today's video, we're going to show you how to remove the stock landing gear and install the custom retractable landing gear for your NovaX. So for starters, the first thing I'm going to do, before I go through all my tools and components that I need, a little something different, I'm going to set my transmitter up right away. This is going to help me down the road because I don't want to forget this important step, so I'm going to do it first thing first. Obviously, I'm going to power on my transmitter, and I'm going to enter my system menu by hitting the OK button. I want to go to Setup, so I'm going to use the down button to scroll over and hit OK. I'm going to go down to Auxiliary Channels, and I'm going to hit OK again. Now, I don't want to change anything with channel 5. That's my 3-position flight mode switch. I don't want to change anything with channel 6. That's my bank switch from AP mode to sport to user mode, so I want to leave that the same. I'm going to go down again. I'm going to change channel 7. Yours might say source none or VRA or VRB. You want to change that by hitting the OK button. And I'm actually looking for switch A. This top one is going to control my retracts. So I'm going to hit the OK button until I get to switch A, and I'm happy with that. Now, channel 8, I can make VRA or VRB depending. Channel 8 is going to be my gimbal tilt control. I'm going to leave it VRB, which is the right knob. So I'm just going to hit the OK button and cancel out. And I have fully set up my transmitter. The next thing I need to make sure I do is learn my transmitter new channels to my NovaX. So there is a calibration walkthrough procedure that we're going to do right now for that. I know I have my Nova with no landing gear on it. I don't have my propellers on. I'm going to loosely install my battery, but before I do that, I'm going to remove the top canopy carefully. I'm going to do the transmitter calibration manually. And in order to do that, I need to add a little button in here. So let's set this guy down. Cool. I'm going to power the unit up because my transmitter's on. Let everybody sit still for a second. Okay, now I'm going to hold down this little button next to the green LED on the flight control board for 2 seconds. Okay, now I have the red LED on the top, and I have this little blue LED on the bottom. That's good. I want to double tap that LED button to get that blue LED flashing, and then I'm in the channel setup learning phase. So now that it's flashing, I'm going to walk through the steps. The first step is throttle. I'm going to bring the throttle down to 0, back up, 1 beep. Next step is rudder. I'm going to do left rudder, back to the center, 2 beeps, or I'm sorry, 1 beep, double flash. Forward elevator, left aileron, first 3-position switch, second 3-position switch, next is a retract switch, and finally the VRB knob. Now I've calibrated my transmitter to my NovaX, and it is ready to accept the retracts. So now that that part is over with, I'm going to button this thing up. When I come back, I'm going to show you how to remove the bottom plate. Okay, we're back here, and now that we're back, I'm going to go over the tools that we're going to need and the components that we're going to need. First and foremost, I have my number 2 Phillips driver. I'm going to need him. I've got a pair of needle nose. You never know when you could use them, so they're always good to have on hand. I've got my handy dandy rusty old snips, still doing their job. I don't think I'm going to need my nut driver and my my Allen driver, but I have them here just in case I do need them. And I think that pretty much completes all the tools. For components, literally I just have like a small handful of zip ties just so we can button our wiring up. The first thing we need to do is obviously we need to disconnect our receiver. So I'm going to cut away the zip ties that hold the receiver leads onto the lower arm supports of the NovaX. Cool, got those out of the way. I'm going to go ahead and pull the double sticky tape off that my receiver was sitting on. Oh, this time it came off like that, and that's fine. It doesn't really matter. No problem. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the 4 Phillips screws that are holding my stock mounting plate on. See if we can get one of these guys to start. There we go. This plate has been on and off multiple times, so it's seeing a little bit of wear. Yours will come off probably a lot easier than mine will. Let's see if we can get this last guy here. I think I have a nut that's refusing to hold its position. Let's see if we can give him a little bit of a hand with those needle nose pliers, shall we? This is where these extra tools come in handy. I'm going to just reach in here and see if I can grab that other bind nut. There we go. Cool, cool. Let's remove that last screw. Well, don't forget to turn your transmitter off. Okay, so the screws are out. I'm actually going to save this bottom plate here. I'm just going to kind of flip it. Well, maybe I can, maybe I can't. Maybe these screws are holding it. There we go. I'm just going to kind of flip it up and out of the way like this. Just leave it lay there. It kind of works pretty well. Now I can take this bottom plate off. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I remember the location of these two back trailing slots, because when I put my retract gear on here, I want to make sure I line them back up. So I have my retractable gear kit here. The next step I want to do before I secure the retractable gear kit down is I want to move these studs over to the new mounting plate, because these studs are going to serve to mount the gimbal for the X3 gimbal as well. So make sure before you complete the next step, you take the studs off of here and you put them on the new mounting plate for with the retracts. The holes will just line up the same. I'm not going to do that in video. I'm just going to come back and magically it'll be done. Okay, we're back, and I have my studs now mounted correctly on my new retractable landing gear plate. I'm going to make sure my wiring doesn't get caught up. Let's take our battery tray, flip him back over, and put him back in the slots. Just like that. Make sure your battery flap is tucked underneath here, and take out whatever slack is left. That'll make a difference. Cool. And now we can line everybody up and secure our new retractable landing gear with plate to our Nova. So let's do that now. Let's run these screws in here. And this plate also has some detents in it to help you line up with the motor arm pods as well. So it makes a big difference. Just makes reassembly that much easier. Just get those started. Cool, now that they're all started, we can go down and make sure they're all nice and snug. Sweet! Now we're to the point where we can reinstall our receiver, and I have some this 3M foam back adhesive pad. I really like this stuff. It works out really well. It seems to hold everything in position. We are going to also need a pair of scissors. I forgot, I probably should have mentioned that at the beginning. My apologies for not doing so. So go ahead and find yourself a pair of scissors. I cut one piece in half. I'm just going to double layer this to make it a little bit thicker. Like so. Now for the fun part of pulling that backing off. Okay. Let's go with this. Let's go ahead and put this foam piece here. Something like that. We want our receiver as far forward as we can get it. Let's go ahead and pull that other layer off. And mount our receiver. Like so. Beauteous. Sweet. I love it. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and hook up our wiring here again for our receiver for our antennas. Go ahead and get that out of the way. Whoopsies. Dropping stuff. Make sure that's going the right way. Yep, it sure is. It's real important to always remember to secure these wires. That way nothing gets chewed up in the propellers. I guarantee you this, if you get them chewed up in the propellers and cut some of the ends off, you're not going to get good signal reception. You're going to end up having a crash, and that's no good. So, now that we've got that taken care of, let's go ahead and snip the excess off. Our handy dandy snips. And we will be ready from here. Sweet. Okay, now that I've got my receiver wires routed correctly and my receiver mounted, it's time to run my retractable gear wiring. And there's a quick and simple method for doing that. I'm going to go ahead and bring the wiring out around this mount right here, the arm itself. Cool. Like so. I'm going to route it up. And I'm going to actually tuck it in underneath this pillar right here. And then the connection point is right here. I can't come right through this slot with this because this is actually where the canopy connects to the upper plate itself. So don't pass your wire through here, route it around through things, and you'll be fine. The next thing to do is make sure I correctly connect. On the connector itself, there's a very small tab that sticks off. And on the print, on the power control board itself, there's also an indication tab there. So just make sure you follow those tabs and line them up correctly. If you do it incorrectly, your retracts obviously aren't going to work, so keep that in mind. So there's that one. Let's go ahead and route the other side. Again, just going around this pillar here, this motor arm, up and through, underneath, like so. And make sure you line things up correctly. Let's plug him in also. Boom, so now I've got my wiring plugged in, everything's connected, it looks nice. I've got some slack here, and I'm going to take care of that right now. This side, I'm just going to go ahead and fold this back on itself, and I'm going to zip tie it right around this pillar here. There we go, start one end through. Whoops, don't grab extra wires that you don't need. Okay, let's go ahead and feed that sleeve through now. It's kind of doubled back on itself. Makes for a real nice, clean, easy install. You don't have any extra slack. If we do, we can always just take it out. Like so. Beautimous. And if you have like an extra, like your wires kind of hanging in here, don't be afraid to use another zip tie in that area if you want to. It's completely up to you. I think I might actually do that here. Just to keep the wiring low and out of the way, because once I put the battery in, I don't want the battery getting congested on anything. And I have a nice little connection point right in here. Just go around this wire. Grab him up. Another zip tie. There we go. Now everything's nice and clean and ran out of the way. When I push the battery in or pull the battery out, I won't have to worry about that. For the other side, I'm not going to zip tie anything down to it yet, because I want to connect my X3 gimbal. Cut these loose. And when I run my gimbal wiring, I'm going to also run it up through here as well. So when I get done with that, I'm just going to zip tie all 3 or 4 wires together. That will make for a nice clean install also. So I have my wiring now installed. I'm going to go ahead and reinstall my canopy. carefully. Pretty much done under the hood. When I go to install an X3 gimbal, I'll have to get back under the hood again, but for this video, we're done under here. So let's go ahead and reconnect. Sweet. And we are good to go. Let's connect our canopy back on. Obviously this wiring is going to be cleaned up with a zip tie once I have my X3 gimbal mounted. So now I can actually trigger my retractable gear. I'm going to go ahead and turn my transmitter on. And I'm going to find my battery. My NovaX is flipped upside down and that's totally okay. Let's go ahead and power that up. We'll give them a second. Cool. Now I can flip my retractable gear switch. Oh, that's the wrong way. Sorry, down would be up, gear up. And there we go. So now I've found it's a little bit easier to have my gear in this upward facing position when I go to connect my landing gears themselves. I've already got my landing gears here. As a matter of fact, I'm done with this battery so I can unplug it, and I've got my gear in this upward position, which is awesome. So now I can go ahead and begin working on my installing my landing gears. There's a spring mechanism that actually holds things in place here also. So I'm going to show you how to mount up that spring mechanism next, and then once we have it all set up, we're going to actually do the final termination. So I'll be right back. Okay, for this portion I'm going to show you how to prepare your landing legs correctly. First, you'll notice I have my longer landing legs for gimbal attachment, for camera attachment. I've got my T-joints here. I've got my landing skids. They're equal distance. In previous videos, I have videos showing me offsetting them. Obviously, because you're putting retracts on, you won't have to worry about that. I've got my springs, and I've got my mounts. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and install my mount to the T-joint connection. And I want this small hole lined up in the center of this small hole at the top. So when I put this on, it's going to actually look just like that. And on the back side, there's a screw for securing this nice and tight. This is exactly how you want it to look. You don't want to shove this all the way down on here and block this hole up. So the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and install my leg itself. Push down on the button, on the ball, pass it through everything, and clip it into place. So that's the final look. That's what it's going to look like. I'm also going to need my screwdriver. I'm going to go ahead and tighten down this screw back here. Don't over tighten it, just enough force to keep it in place. And that's pretty much how you do that. So we're going to repeat the other step. I'm going to do the same thing again. Go ahead and install this guy first. Line up the connector properly, like so. Then I'm going to pass my landing skid through, push down on the ball, goes all the way in and secures into place nice and snug, and then tighten that guy down again. Boom. So now my legs are prepped and I'm ready to begin installing on my Nova, and we're going to do that as soon as I come back. Okay, so I've got my retract plate mounted here. I've got my receiver mounted to my retract plate. I've got my wiring ran. I've got my mounts on for my landing legs. These are for the spring connectors. I'm to the point now where I need to install the feet on my retract gear. One of the things I do want to point out, guys, is that these are not the stock isolators for mounting the X3 gimbal. These are an aftermarket screw fastener that I use. It's a hard mount. It's a little bit different than the stock mount. This is aftermarket hardware. If you watch the X3 video listed in the description below, you can see the difference in what I've done. So I just wanted to point that out to you guys. For this particular application, the installation, what I want to do is I want to make sure I have the right fasteners, and I also want to make sure I have the right tools. So for this particular setup, I'm using a 1.5 millimeter hex driver and a pair of needle nose pliers. I've got my retracts in the up position, and I want to begin by loosening. There's 4 screws that will actually hold the landing leg into place. So I want to begin by loosening those screws. I'm going to use my needle nose to hold onto the nut. I'm not going to loosen them all the way. I'm just going to back them out a little bit until things are like loose on the grip. So I'm going to do that on this side for starters. Make sure I'm in the frame here. Okay, so now I've got that loose. Things can move around in here. I'm going to go ahead and begin by installing my retract gear, and I want to make sure I have the right one. I want the T-joint facing outwards, away from the center point of the Nova. In previous videos, with the stock landing gear, we have them mounted like this. With the retracts, we're going to actually flip that around and mount it the other way. Now I'm going to go ahead and install my leg. I'm going to make sure it's fully seated. There's actually a stop in this back bracket that won't let you keep pushing it in. And I'm going to line it up with the center line of the body, so I'm just kind of drawing a visual line here. This you might have to tweak around a little bit later. I'm pretty happy with the location that it's in. You can also use this ball and make sure it's in the center as well of this mounting grip. So now that I have that in place, I'm going to go ahead and tighten this back down. Get them nice and snug here. Let's get this last guy. And we can go ahead and mount our feet back on. Well, they're going to be upright. I got the red facing the front. It's a nice directional indicator, so keep that in mind. Pop these guys on. We're going to go ahead and spin this guy around. I'm going to knock the other side out here. Do them both. Maybe we'll speed things up. Maybe we won't. I like having the gear up like this because it makes it easier to get at the nuts that are on the back side of these fasteners. If you have them sitting down, it's a little more difficult to reach in there. Got them loose. Snap everybody into place. Oh, looks like I dropped a nut back in there. That's okay, we'll find him. Fully seated. Try and get my head out of the frame here. Yeah, that's why it's real important to go ahead and just back the nut off a little bit. Don't do it too much, otherwise you're going to end up like I am, trying to feed things back in. So keep that in mind when doing this step. Okay, let's tighten some things down, shall we? There we go. Now I'm getting them lined up. There we go. Got it through, and we'll find that nut here in a second. Let's go ahead and tighten some things down so everything stays secure. Go ahead and make sure your landing gears are lined up nice and straight as well. And remember, once you get this together and if things are a little off, you can always back these fasteners back out and kind of re-screw them accordingly to make sure your landing legs are nice and straight. Go ahead and get this guy here. Okay, let's see if we can find the nut that I lost. Well, I hear something moving around. That's a good thing. Oh, I think it fell in the canopy. How does that happen, huh? Hooray, there it is. We found it. Alright, cool. Let's finish up. I suppose we don't need our pad anymore now that we got our legs mounted. Flip this over. Now we're sitting on our main gear, looking good. Don't forget that last nut that you dropped. Let's find out where he goes for sure. Ah, there we are. Grab him with our needle nose pliers. I'm just letting this roll because this kind of thing does happen, so you should be prepared for it and if it happens to me and I know what to do, then it helps you in the long run. Right? Right. Alright, now I've got my NovaX. Oh, let's put these feet on here. That one goes there, the red one goes towards the front. And we need to install our battery. Let's turn our transmitter on. Battery's installed, flap is closed, plug them in. Cool. And now we can test out our retracts. So if I flip the switch, gear come up, nice, out of the way, plenty of room for the gimbal down here. That's nice. One of the things I want to point out too is you can't toggle this switch too fast. You need it. There's a 3-second delay that the motors take, and that prevents binding or anything like that. So just remember, if you flip your switch too fast, nothing's going to happen. There's a 3-second delay before the gear will drop back down the other way. So don't be discouraged or alarmed. It's just the way it's designed. I think that pretty much wraps everything up regarding installing the retractable gear. Obviously now we have room to mount the gimbal. Again, as I mentioned before, there in the description below you're going to find how to install that as well. I just realized something. We're not completely done yet. We have to install our springs. So let's go ahead and put those on now. The springs are dampeners. They prevent wobble from occurring with the retracts when they're in the up position. The wobble can occur because the propeller wash is actually pushing down on the landing feet, and it can create a vibration that you could notice in your gimbal. So this little safety spring right here prevents that. It keeps everything in tension, nice and neat. That's a cool little feature. Let's put this guy on this side. And there's a loop down here where we put our mount. Let's make sure I got that in the frame. Here we are. There's a loop right here. And then there's also a hole right here. Make sure I can identify that the spring goes into. Now, when we toggle our retracts, our spring's under load. It's holding everything nice and snug. And that's what we want. I think that pretty much covers it. Guys, thanks again for watching our video. If you have any questions, you can always find us at support@rclogger.com.